We will stand up again. We will march again. We will preach again. We will organize again. We are black. We are white. We are Latino. We are Native American. We are Democrat. We are Republican. We are independent. We are people of faith. We are people not of faith. We are natives and immigrants. We are business leaders and workers and unemployed. We are doctors and the uninsured. We are gay. We are straight. We are students. We are parents. We are retirees. We are North Carolina, and we're here, and we ain't going nowhere.
It is my great privilege and honor to bring to the stage just now the architect of an intersectional movement that has caught the imagination, heart, and mind of an entire state, North Carolina, the nation, and now the world, across lines of difference that once kept us separated. A man whose vision for North Carolina is one in which all families, my family, your family, and all families matter. A man who is helping us right now as we speak to take back our state. The man that taught us forward together, not one step back. Thank you very much. Please welcome the Reverend Dr. William Barber II to our stage.
Hello, Durham. Hello, North Carolina. Somebody say forward together. Not one step back.
Not one step back.
Where are all those Moral Monday arrestees? Where are you? Raise your hand. Give it a shout for the arrestees. Where are all those North Carolinians that are going to fight for our state? Three hours ago, I was in Washington, D.C. for D.C. Moral Monday. I was there to be a part of a contingency that looked like this crowd in all of its beauty and diversity, to welcome Mayor Adam O'Neill, a conservative Republican, Bob Zellner, an original SNCC activist, and Crystal Price, one of the Tillis 15 who sat in Tom Tillis's office for 12 hours before they were arrested, a young mother with 3 children who's a fast food worker who suffers with cervical cancer. She makes too much to qualify for Medicaid, and she can't get Medicaid expansion because Tom Tillis, McCrory, and Berger have blocked the expansion in the state of North Carolina. Mayor Adam O'Neill, a conservative Republican, Bob Zellner, Crystal Price, myself, and hundreds of others, just left the nation's capital to expose how regressive it is for Tom Tillis and McCrory and Berger and their allies to side with big business, big health conglomerates that would close rural hospitals and to deny Medicaid expansion, which has now caused Pungo Hospital in Belhaven to close. They have, by denying Medicaid expansion, created a situation where 500,000 people in this state can't get access to Medicaid expansion. It's our money. Billions of dollars that could be being used are not being used. 2,500 people will die in North Carolina. The Pungo Hospital has been open for 60 years. It was opened by the Hill-Burton Act 60 years ago when Republicans and Democrats came together to ensure rural hospitals. That hospital has been through floods, it's been through tornadoes, it's been through hurricanes, and none of that could close it. But a Tea Party, extreme, regressive government in our state now could pass policies that would close that hospital. They have made North Carolina join 26 other states. All of the southern states have denied Medicaid expansion. And Mayor Adam O'Neill, a Republican conservative, said this is not an issue of Republican versus Democrat, black versus white, but it's an issue of right versus wrong. And he said that sick people in the South should not once again be the soldiers in somebody else's regressive ideology. We've been through that before. Just a few days after that hospital was closed, a young lady named Gibbs, 38 years old, died waiting in a hospital parking lot for an helicopter to land when the hospital that she would have been able to go to was just a few minutes away. Her son braved his grief and stood on that stage in the nation's capital. Tillisberger and others in this state and Biden thought they were going to do these things and they would be kept in North Carolina. Rural hospitals are closing all over this state, all over this country, and being affected all over the state. But I bring you the word today from D.C. that what is done in the darkness shall be surely shown to the light. But I also bring you hope from a strange place. I know you're frustrated by these extremist policies. I know they make you angry. I know they make you wonder what is going on. But I come from a faith tradition that still believes what some meant for evil, God can work it to good. That's right. That's right. And I saw good in D.C. because if these extremist policies can bring a Republican mayor, a civil rights veteran, a mother, a fast food worker together, and the president of the NAACP together, then all of us ought to come together and organize and register and vote like we never have. Sometimes you ought to thank your enemy for waking you up. Sometimes you ought to be glad when in the middle of the darkness you can see the brightest stars. I'm telling you, we ought to be fired up. When we look at the current debate over the budget between Tillisberger and the governor, it ought to make us want to organize and register and vote.
It does.
Think about that budget. First, they break the budget and the revenues by cutting taxes for those who don't need it and raising it on 89% of North Carolinians. They give money to private schools, which is a violation of our Constitution. They cut money for public education. They violate a 146-year-old constitutional declaration. They refuse to accept Medicaid expansion money. And now, though our Constitution says that education is a right, and our Constitution in North Carolina says the first duty of a Christian society is to care for the poor. That's in our Constitution. Tillisberger and McCory are trying to pass a budget by pitting teachers against the poor and against the sick. I stop by to say, with not one stutter in my mouth, that when you pit people against one another to try to fuel your regressive ideology, that in fact is sick. It's wrong, it's immoral, and we better organize, we better register, and we better vote. Tell your neighbor it's time. I'm so angry, I'm so frustrated, I'm going to organize, I'm going to register, and I'm going to vote. Tell your neighbor, we're going to turn bad times into good times. What somebody meant for evil, we're going to work it to good. It's time to organize, register, and vote. Now slap somebody a high five and scream. Let us, however, as I close, not forget that we are in a fight and we are litigating in court against what unmistakably is the worst attack on voting and the worst attempt to comprehensively abridge the right to vote since Jim Crow. That's what this current government has brought to us. House Bill 589. It was first passed by Tom Tillis's House. It is not about voter ID. It is not about voter integrity. It is about the intentional identification of voters that extremists feel may not support their political ideology. It is the form of conjuring up and passing laws to suppress and exclude those voters' rights and opportunities at the ballot box. Let us not forget that this bill was passed after the Shelby decision. That's right. They waited until the Shelby decision destroyed Section 5 preclearance by annihilating Section 4. After the Shelby decision, one legislator said, now that the headache has been removed. Touch your neighbor and say, did you know that? They described the Voting Rights Act as a headache. And after Shelby, the bill went from 12 pages to 57 pages. Without expert testimony, without real hearings, it was rushed through. In less than 30 days after Shelby, it was passed. And by August, it was signed. But let me tell you what the NAACP and others did. In less than 47 minutes before the ink had dried, we had filed a suit against this regressive form of voter suppression. But let us not forget that this bill shows the nation what extremists, especially in the South, are willing to do to suppress the vote without having to go through preclearance. Let us also not forget that North Carolina, Susan, was no utopia before this crowd.
All right.
Since 1970, the Justice Department has had to intervene 60 times in North Carolina to block voter suppression, which means we have had to fight Democrats and Republicans on the issue of voting. Touch your neighbor and say, you better hear that. Because this is a moral movement. Pour It Together Moral Monday is not about Democrat, it's not about Republican, it's not about liberal, it's not about conservative, it's about doing what's right for the good of the whole in this state. The lawyers for McCrory, Tillis, and by the way, they refused to even come to court and testify. They passed it, now they don't want to own it. In fact, Curtis, they wouldn't even, they tried to say they had legislative immunity. And the judge said, if you did it, you gotta own it. So they wouldn't even go on the stand. Rosanelle Eaton, 92 years old, went on the stand. Mary Perry, over 80 years old, went on the stand. Carolyn Q. Coleman, a civil rights icon, went on the stand. Young people went on the stand. Women went on the stand. But Tillis, Berger, and McCrory were too scared to go on the stand. Because they know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. They know they're wrong. And 61% of North Carolinians are now saying when politicians try to use voting laws to stay in office and manipulate the power to vote, that, my friends, is wrong. It was wrong yesterday, it's wrong today, and it'll be wrong tomorrow. Jimmy Hawkins went on the stand. Reverend Hawkins went on the stand. And do you know what their lawyers said in court? You know what they said to the judge? They said, Your Honor, these laws may have problems. No, Dr. Moss, that's what they said. I couldn't believe it. They said, but since we have started using them, it would not be fair for you to disrupt the status quo. No, I'm not lying. Am I lying? No. Who else was there? Anybody else was in the courtroom? When we heard it, we were like, what? Think what they're saying. We passed the laws. They may be unconstitutional, but, Your Honor, we're already using them. Now, first of all, the logic is flawed, because when Tom Tillis and the North Carolina House proposed Bill 589, they overturned the status quo. We already had same-day registration. We already had early voting. We already had no voter ID. We had signature attestation. We had 17 days of early voting. We had Sunday voting. Their bill overturned the status quo. The difference, what they did in North Carolina, is not that they blocked laws from North Carolinians. They took the laws that North Carolinians had already used in 2 elections.
That's right, that's right. Preach it.
That's what makes it so wrong.
That's right.
But then we said to them, if not overturning the status quo is the extreme Tea Party philosophy espoused by Tillis, Berg, and McCory and their allies, if that's really their philosophy, you don't overturn the status quo, then America would have never ended slavery.
That's right. How about that?
So that once was the status quo.
Well,
they never would have given women the right to vote, because that once was the status quo. They never would have done away with separate but equal, because that once was the status quo. They never would have passed the Civil Rights Act of 64 or the Voting Rights Act of 65. They never would have allowed 18-year-olds to vote, because at one time all of those injustices were legal and they were the status quo. But how many of you know democracy is about change and shifting the status quo? Whenever the status quo is contrary to equal protection under the law, somebody shout, this is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
So let us not forget that our right to vote came through blood over a way that with tears has been watered. Let us not forget the Bible says that the power of life is in the blood. Let us not forget not just Sunday, but Bloody Sunday, when bodies were put on the line to guarantee the protections of the right to vote. I was at the NAACP National Convention this past week, and I met a lady who you've maybe never heard about. She was sitting beside me as we were talking about voting rights, and she began to weep. And I said, what's wrong, my dear sister? She said, you may not know some names I'm going to call, but they should be in the great hallmark of witnesses for justice. She called the name of Adelina Hamlet. Michelle, I didn't know that name, a voting rights activist. She called the name of Berdia Keglar. I said, who are they? She said, well, January 12th, 1966, 1 year after the Voting Rights Act was passed, Miss Keglar was my aunt. She was a well-known voting rights advocate, a businesswoman. And her friend was a teacher. They had been denied the right to vote after the Voting Rights Act in Jackson, Mississippi. Excuse me, in Talladega. They went down to Jackson to participate in a hearing that Robert Kennedy was held. One of them owned land. One of them had been kicked by a sheriff. They were older ladies. One was 78 years old. And coming back from that hearing, they were killed. They were killed for going to a hearing in 1966, 1 year after the Voting Rights Act, and demanding their right to vote. She said my aunt's head was decapitated. She said that they claimed it was just a wreck. And the case is now being considered to be reopened. But she sat there and wept. She said the reason I'm weeping is two reasons. I'm weeping because when I hear people trying to go back on voting rights like they're doing all over the South and in North Carolina and in Mississippi, it breaks my heart because my aunt died for this right. But then she said the other reason I'm weeping, Reverend Barber, is because when black women weep, they're getting their power then. And I would suspect that's true for some white women as well. She said, I'm not crying because I'm getting ready to quit. She said, I'm crying because I'm ready to fight. I'm crying because I'm ready to stand up. I'm crying because I see the blood of my ancestors, and I'm tired of people messing with the right to vote. I stopped by to tell you, nobody gave us our right to vote. Somebody died for our right to vote. Medgar Evers died for our right to vote. Swanner, Cheney, and Goodman died for our right to vote. Viola Louisa, a white woman, died for our vote. James Reeb, a Unitarian preacher, died for our right to vote. And it was the blood of the martyrs that filled the pen of history with the ink that would be used by Lyndon Baines Johnson to sign the Voting Rights Act. It was co-sponsored by a Republican and a Democrat. It was the blood that shamed the nation and forced people to do the justice they said they could not do. So we come to Durham, and we're going all over this state to say to Tillis, to say to Berger, to say to McCrory, when we fight in North Carolina, this is not merely a political fight. This is the fight of history. This is the fight of our time. This is a blood fight. Everything we have came through the blood. Every voting right we have came through the blood. Every taste of freedom we have came through the blood. Every ounce of equality came through the blood. It's one thing. It's wrong for you to attack the sick by denying Medicaid. It's wrong for you to attack the unemployed. It's wrong for you to attack the working poor by taking earned income tax credit. It's wrong for you to attack teachers and public education and children. But when you attack the right to vote that came through blood, you have picked the fight at another level. How dare you trample on the graves of our mothers and our fathers? How dare you wipe your feet through the blood of the slaughter just because hands that once picked cotton can now join hands with other folk and pick presidents and pick governors and pick legislators. You thought you were in a fight. You ain't seen nothing yet. I've told our lawyers, you better litigate like you've never litigated before, but you better remember the blood. Tell people everywhere, remember the blood and organize and register to vote like never before. In fact, right now, act like you in my church and turn to 3 people and say, remember the blood. Remember the blood. Oh, say it like you mean it. Say, remember the blood. Say, remember the blood. There's power in the blood. Wonder-working power in the blood. Too many people have died. Too many people have suffered. Too many people have bled. There's power, 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 wonder-working power in the blood. We can't give up now, y'all. We can't sit down now. It's organizing time. And this is what we want you to do. Everybody that's going to, after you hear these other speeches, going to leave here and register some new folk to vote. Raise your hand. See this, media. We need to make it sure they cannot figure out this election, because they ain't never seen folk organized like we gonna be organized in a so-called off year like they will see us this year. Now in every county, we need 20 people or 20 organizations that will commit to register a person a day, that's 5, for 10 weeks. Do you know if 20 people register 5 people a day for 10 weeks, that's 1,000 new registered voters? And if you do that in 50 counties, that's 50,000 new registered voters. And then if you organize, do you know there are 400,000 black people that voted in 2008, didn't vote in 2010, but there are also 200,000 women, white women. And if we organize all of them and register to vote, we can make a difference in this election. We can send a shot across the bow that says we are not going anywhere. This state does not belong to the extremists. We, the people, shall never, ever be defeated. And so, I apologize, I've got to leave. Reverend Dr. Moss is here, the president of Lot Carey Worldwide, and Baptists and others from all over have committed to help us registering to vote. In fact, in his church, they're making it a part of revival to go out and register folk to vote. Well, huh? Somebody said we are nonpartisan, but we ain't non-political. And I ain't gonna tell you who to vote, but we gonna tell on everybody you have to vote for. We're gonna tell on them and tell on where they are, where they stood on the issues. But finally, right here in North Carolina, in Durham, we need 20, 40 people from Durham to come forward. Where's our organizer? Right now. Nicole, where are you? We need 20, 40 people that'll come forward. I don't care, white, black, Latino, Asian. Come up here, 40 of you from Durham that will help this young lady do this 25-10 program. 20 people, registering 5 a day. That's 1 a day for 10 weeks. Can't we remember the blood and do that? Can't we remember the blood and do that? I'm looking for a witness. Where are you? We need 40 people. Come on up. Come on up. Come on, come on, come on up to the front. 40 of you. There's one. Huh? All right, that's two. That's two. Come on. If you're already doing it, we want to see you. And in every county, this is what you want to do. Durham, we're going to get 40 today, but in every county, at least get 20. Come on up. Stand right in here. This called voting altar call. Turn around and face the people. Come on, give him a hand, give him a hand. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Where's my organizer? That's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, that's 8, that's 9, that's 10, that's 11, that's 12. Where are we at? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Come on, 19. Come on, 20. I need 20 more. 20 more from Durham, 20 more. 21, come on. Where's my organizer? Get down there in the middle. Come on, we need 15 more. There's another. That's another. Come on, we need them. We need 12 more. 12 more from Durham. 12 more from Durham. I need some blue shirts up here. Come on. Organizer, come on. Where's my organizer? Where is she? Where's the Durham organizer? No, I need the Durham organizer. Where is she? All right, we need 5 more. Is she here? Go right down there, baby. Get your folk. Come on. Don't you let them go anywhere. You got an army right now. Huh? We got an army. There's another one. Huh? Come on. Somebody say there's power in the blood. Somebody say we will never, never, never forget the blood and the sacrifices that gave us the right to vote. Say McCory, Tillis, Berger, we love you. But when you started messing with the vote, you picked a fight. You picked a fight. You picked a fight like you have never seen in your life. Red, yellow, black, white, Democrat, Republican, Independent. We are here, and we're not going anywhere. We are here, and we're going to fight for the soul of our state until you give the people what they want. Hallelujah.